Hi, my name is Mallory Ailey. I'm in English 101 section Fall 2025. Should the legal drinking age for alcohol consumption be 18 or 21? This source is why a minimum legal drinking age of 21 works. This is published and by the government published public health resource. This source is about how the drinking age should say 21 and how this source provides us with accurate information because it's published by the government's health facility. Something I learned from this that I think is so important is that the crash rates actually went down for motor vehicle accidents when the drinking age was raised to 21, and it was raised for 21 because of so many crashes and accidents, and it decreased to 16%, which doesn't seem like a lot, but even just like 5% is so much in saving someone's life. Reason number one why I think the source is reliable is because it is published by the government public health resources. Usually there's people hired like scientists, public health experts, and doctors. Having a reliable source to give information is important for accuracy. Reason number two. The reason why I think this source is again reliable is because there's a reference page on this article that anyone, including myself, can go and look back and see what sources did they use to provide us this information. How did they get this? And there's links, and they're all put in MLA format also. That's very important because even if you see on a website that there is lists and lists of like sources, if it's not cited in MLA, it could be completely wrong. Most of these sources are also up to date, and there was only one source that was published in 2017, and the rest were 2020. Now, it kind of like threw me off when I was like, why is there only one source posted in 2017? But when I looked at that source, it seemed pretty accurate, and the fact that all of the sources except one was in 2017, I just think that's very important. That it's not like 5 of them were in 2017 and 1 was in 2020. Like, no, definitely opposite way around. And then reason number 3 is because it was very organized. When I was going through the article, it was very easy for me to find what topic I wanted to find, what I wanted to read about, and it just was very easy. And then it was also very pretty, but not gonna like stand out and take and draw away from the fact about what this article is about. The colors were basic: blue, black, and white. Nothing that's gonna like poke out, stick out, nothing crazy. Not like a bright pink or something. And it was very professional, I would say. When looking at the sources, I think it's just really important not to take a color scheme and make it big and have like 10 different colors. You need to stick to about like 3 different colors, and there was only 3 colors on the source, and I think that just like helped me confirm that the source is reliable. So overall, I would say that the source is reliable because it is published by the government public health resource. I think if it's coming from the government and living in the United States, our government is supposed to provide us trusted resources. So I just feel like that is kind of like a proven fact. It's very organized, like I just mentioned, and there's resources cited, and they're in MLA format. I feel as if all 3 of my points are key things you need to look for when you're trying to figure out if a source is reliable, and I feel like it provided me all of this very clearly. And then this source is from the government published public health resource, and it supports that the minimum drinking age should be 21 and that they don't want to go down anymore in the US. It cites evidence that lowering the drinking age would not work due to the increased risk of alcohol-related deaths and a rise in motor vehicle crashes when the age was 18 or any lower than that, or like in between that. Should the drinking age be lowered to 18 again? By Larry Rifkin. For this source, I picked a podcast called The Young Perspective. When listening to it, I think they had some great points, but it kind of threw me off a little bit. The creators and author of this are Ethan Canfield and Joshua Dan Ziger. And in this podcast, they speak on how many Americans are arrested a year for drinking underage, like an insane amount. They kind of compare how other countries don't have as big of problems with underage drinking and binge drinking because the age is younger. They talked a lot about like many different countries and how their drinking age is not 21 and it's like 18, and how they don't have a problem. Teens are less exposed to alcohol when in high school because they're usually under control of their parents, and once they move away, they have so much freedom. Like, even if you just don't go to college, but you just like move different house without your parents, you're getting so much freedom, and most kids have never been alone, and they're getting that for the first time. I'm only 17 to 18. I'm 17 right now, and I cannot like imagine like living alone right now because I would just like I rely on my family so much to help provide for me. And I just think teens now, they just don't get like, they're not exposed to that kind of stuff unless your parents let you, or you're just doing it on your own already. So it's more I feel like teens, and what this article is saying is that teens, when they go to college, they have never been exposed to that before, and then for the first time they are, and they're just like going crazy because they're having fun, they're getting friends from this, whatever the case is, and then they keep doing it, and that can start binge drinking. It can start many problems. So that's just kind of like the run through about what this article is about. But however, I do not think this article is reliable because the host and speaker of the podcast are both in high school when this was published. I believe they're not anymore, but when this was published, they were still in high school speaking on this topic. They don't mention that they have any credibility in law, public policy, or psychology, which are primary areas of expertise required to provide a credible analysis on lowering the drinking age. They don't have any credentials and any of that stuff. So they're just speaking on what they know, what they've heard, what they've done, like just their personal opinion on it. So that's just kind of like, I don't think that they should be talking on their personal opinion with having no credibility. Reason number 2 is that they are unreliable because Scott Johnson, who is the speaker of this podcast, is speaking on his own opinion, which I kind of just previously mentioned that a little bit, but when you're trying to express like what side you're on and stuff, you should not say your personal opinion. You should say whatever article or whatever source you're using's opinion, and hopefully they're not opinion based, or hopefully there's on one side talking about it, or then that just gets really messy. Reason number 3 is that this source is unreliable because it speaks on social events instead of data or public health. They, like I just mentioned in the run through, it talks a lot about what you would experience and not like data's experience and stuff. Like, the speaker mentions how a lot of college students have a habit of binge drinking because they are unsupervised. This podcast never provides us any factual evidence. And then this is just my overall thoughts about this article. From all those sources, I don't think a single one of, from all this information, from all the reasons, I don't think a single reason I provided helped me think that the source was reliable. And it was also published in 2019, which was 6 years ago, which is a very long time, and the law has not changed for us, but 6 years ago, and they were talking about something they were not credible for, I feel like just makes it not reliable in my opinion. And then the article also talks about and argues that lowering the drinking age provides opinion-based information as well as source information. This podcast was found on Apple Music and was published in 2019. The Drinking Age Debate by ISA Data. My third source is about binge drinking and how teens wouldn't feel the need to continue to drink if they had earlier access. Meaning, teens, if they were exposed to drinking, maybe with their parents at home, I don't know, really, or maybe with like a group of friends, they might not feel the need to go out when they go to college and experience all of that. They wouldn't feel the need to hide or sneak alcohol around, especially in college, is very dangerous. And I believe that the source is reliable because they work with a nonprofit organization and statewide government agency that also provides 40 years of experience working in reporting and collecting data. So reason number one on why I do think the source is reliable is because its content isn't based on the author's opinion, but rather on evidence. Specifically, the article enhances its credibility by including and citing credible sources to support its claim. This demonstrates a commitment to accuracy and reliable information. Reason number two on why I think ISA is reliable. It's known for collecting reliable data for over 40 years. The fact that there has been decades of accurate data the fact that there has been decades of accurate data proves how much of a reliable article this is. ISA also collects the data from people who have had a field in substance abuse and student health. Reason number three and why I think the source is not reliable, this is the one time I don't think why the source might not be reliable, is because it is published in 2016, which was almost 10 years ago. Depending on this topic, it is important to see when data can be inaccurate due to times changing. However, this article is supported by the government, and the drinking age hasn't changed in 41 years. So I'm kind of like in between on that one. Overall, I would say this source is reliable, like how I kind of mentioned in the beginning, because there are 2 out of 3 sources stating why the source is reliable. The source has been known for providing reliable data for decades, and it also is supported by the government. This source is a private organization that has worked with governments and schools to collect data for over 40 years. ISA's purpose is to provide important and factual information, and its purpose is to inform people. This source was against lowering the drinking age. In conclusion, overall drinking alcohol is very dangerous action that can ultimately result in liver failure and even death. This serious matter doesn't just risk your life, it can also affect anyone around you, that including a stranger, that including your friend, that including family. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, it states from 1985 to 1991, the percentage of young people aged 18 to 20 who reported drinking alcohol during the past month dropped almost 20%, from 59 to 40%. This is important because it shows a significant decrease in young people drinking when the age was raised. More positive effects came out of this law than negatives, and this article proves it. And then this is my photo, and it's just about liver, how drinking can weaken your muscles, create high blood pressure, can create memory loss for your brain, dementia, mood swings. It can cause bleeding in your esophagus. And then it can create your lungs to not be able to breathe as well, and it lowers your level of nitric oxide. And then in your liver, it can get swollen. In your stomach, you can get ulcers, vomiting, all kinds of gross stuff. So there's a lot of negative effects to what it can do. and then my credibility is down there. So yeah, thanks so much for listening and watching my presentation. I hope everyone has a good one.